It is happening. Hey, Bulls and Bears, JJ here, Bull to the bust. Just like we said it would, markets continue to tick up into the green with all major indexes in the green right now. And the market just opened about an hour ago, but we're already up almost 100 on the Dow Jones. S&P up about a third of a percent, Nasdaq up a half a percent. Now the big one, in my opinion, the big story here is oil dipped below $50. And this is the lowest it's been in over a year. So we're continuing to see oil move down. It doesn't mean it's not going to get propped back up. There could be an event or something that pops up that's going to send a shock or a scare to the oil supply. But keep in mind, the U.S. is the number one oil producer in the world right now. So something would have to happen here in the U.S. But we also have major producers over in the Middle East. Something happens there. Again, another strike, another conflict, or even a threat of a conflict could send that scare and bring oil back up. But the trajectory does seem down in oil, and that's part of the global slowdown that we're seeing, especially now with what is happening out of China. Now, what is happening out of China, I want to talk about last week again, or it's been a couple weeks now, when this first came out, this scare. I talked about it. I said, well, this is not going to cause a crash. The stock market's not going to get pummeled. And I got tore up in comments. I had people unsubscribe. I had people tell me I was a bonehead. I didn't know what I was talking about, that this is the crash. This is going to trigger the stock market crash. And here we are. We are recovering. And I still think we're going to hit 30,000 probably in just a couple months on the Dow Jones. And you say, wow, do you have a crystal ball? How do you know this? Well, that's because if you've been watching this channel, you know exactly what this is. This is a manipulated market. This is not real. And sure, they're going to make the Dow Jones and the averages, the indexes, they're going to make them move up and down. If it just went in a straight line in one direction or another, it would be completely obvious that it's manipulated. But who's ever plugging or programming the algorithm or setting the stops and the triggers for the buy and sell in these indexes, right? You know, they've got a very sophisticated trading system or a buy and sell system. No, I'm not saying it's all manipulated and all 100% algorithmic. There are some humans in the market, obviously. Millions of people have E-Trade accounts. Millions of people have other trading platforms that they use. But the human element of this market, it is like a drop in the ocean. It is a drop in the ocean. They have unlimited amounts of currency they can use to manipulate this market. And you say, oh, how do you know that? Well, it's a fiat currency. Everybody knows this. Not everybody. People that follow financial channels maybe on the internet know this. People that just watch CNBC or just watch the mainstream nightly news probably do not know this. Most of you, I would hope, know this by now. If you've been on this channel for more than, let's say, 4 weeks, you probably know all this that I'm saying right now. But again, I got tore up in comments when I said that. People unsubscribed. They said I was crazy. They said I wasn't researching. And again, I'm not saying what is happening over there in China is not serious. It's serious. There's quarantines. There's millions of people evacuating certain areas that are under the biggest lockdowns right now. There are people on lockdown. And it is possible. Yes, it is possible. This could be much more serious than all of these previous pandemics and global scares. I'm not saying that. But this is a financial channel. We're going to look at everything from a financial perspective. And what will happen if something does trigger higher prices because of the trade that's being choked off right now. You know, a lot of the trade's being choked off because of the pandemic scare. You could see some spikes in items from China, and that could affect the consumer. But what's going to happen then? You're going to see rate cuts, yes, and they'll cut rates. I know they're not saying that now. They're not telling you that now. But they are ready to cut rates. They could use this as a reason to cut rates. They'll pump more liquidity into the banks. That way the banks can continue lending without any fear. Even if consumers start defaulting, they've got the backstop of the unlimited propping up of this system via massive stimulus injections. You have to understand that by now. Okay, so what else is going on as far as the consumer goes? They're going to implement tax cuts later this year. That's going to happen. I've been telling you that now for almost 2 years. I said they're going to have to cut taxes. They're going to have to lower rates. They're going to have to continuously bail out the banks, keep liquidity injections into the banks to keep rates from rising, to keep the overnight borrowing rates down from interbank lending. And who knows, before this is done, there may not even be the need for interbank lending. It could all be pumped in via endless fiat funny money from the central bank. And you can look at the daily injections there into the banking system. The repo operations, it's anywhere from 30 billion to 100 billion in some cases and beyond. And that's another thing. Back in the fall, when I first started saying that this is going to be continuous, also there, people said I was wrong, and here we are. It's going to be going on 6 months since these operations began. I think next month will make about the 6 month mark on that. And they're still going. Why? Because they can't stop. Once you get into this market, once you get into this level of ultra pumped up bubbles, you cannot stop the debt or it will come crashing down. So I don't think they're going to let it come crashing down right now. I think there's an obvious agenda going on right here that most of you probably know by now if you've been on this channel for any length of time. And what can we do? Well, we can take advantage of it. So what types of assets or investments are going to be good in this? Well, a lot of people are saying just buy gold and silver, and I have some gold and silver, but I think these prices are being suppressed. Gold still hasn't went past 1600 here in kind of a long time. What do low rates do? What does the stimulus do? It creates bigger bubbles and assets, and people are going out into the home housing market. We see mortgage lending has loosened quite a bit. They're talking about making changes to the massive changes to the underwriting and mortgages that we'll talk about on my next mortgage housing update report. Also, it pushes people in other assets, including Bitcoin. Bitcoin hit 10,000 for the first time in many months. And again, another thing, people laughed at me back when Bitcoin dropped down to the 3,000. Was it 3,500 it hit, I believe. I think it was about a year ago, and I said, okay, I'm going to pick up a little bit more. It looks like it's, a good buying opportunity, and here it is. It is about tripled since then. And at that time, again, people were laughing at me. They said I didn't know what I was talking about. Right? And I'm not saying I'm always right, and I'm not bragging at all, but all of this is very simple. It's so simple once you learn the game and the system that I don't even consider myself very smart for getting a lot of these things correct because it's so simple. It's manipulated. We know the agenda. We know how the political system integrates with all this, with the financial system. We know that the leader, whoever that may be, sitting in the White House is going to want to have rate cuts to make the economy look better, to encourage people to borrow and to spend. That way they can pretend the economy's good. And sure, if you look at the numbers, it looks really good. The unemployment numbers are low, manipulated numbers. The GDP is not crashing. Manipulated, cherry-picked data in the GDP. The stock market looks good. All-time highs, continuing to march on to new all-time highs. People inflated 401ks make them feel good. They feel like they're going to retire with a nice nest egg. People's inflated equity in their homes makes them feel good. They can borrow against their homes. They can sell their home and maybe move out of state to a lower priced area and take that equity with them. The paper wealth is real, and this is part of the game. It is a lot of this is just confidence. People feel rich. They see their net worth. Companies continue to hire when they're making money on these stock buybacks and the insiders are getting out, cashing out the stock that they sell from the profits that they get. And corporations can continue to make profits, and in some cases, not always. We have a lot of pain in the retail sector right now, brick and mortar particularly. But the debt is flowing. People are still spending. Right? It's going to take a lot more than 12 people sick here in the U.S. to get the U.S. consumer to stop spending and to go in their house and to go on lockdown. All right, there's even people out there saying that the U.S. was going to go under martial law because of this pandemic, right? All right, I'm not saying it's not possible. And people call me a doom and gloom or a fearmonger. Some people have said that about this channel, but then I have the opposite end. People say that I'm doing everyone a disservice because I'm being too calm and I'm not warning people to get out of these markets because there's going to be a crash. All right, see how this is here? And again, I'm not saying I'm always right. I've been wrong. I had a few episodes ago where I talked about I was wrong on the severity of the outbreak, but I was still correct on how it's going to affect the financial markets. And we'll see who's right. We'll continue to 30,000 and beyond. And those of you that know this are probably making some pretty good money on this because it's pretty simple. I know some of you are in ETFs. A lot of you out there are just waiting for this whole thing to unfold before you make your major move. Maybe it's in real estate, waiting to get a better buying opportunity. But then again, there's people that say the Fed's going to continue to pump forever, and that there's going to be hyperinflation, that there's never going to be another recession. So people out there actually think that. On this channel, we think a little bit differently. We think boom and bust cycles are always going to happen because that allows the biggest wealth consolidation and the biggest wealth transfer from the poor and the middle class up to the top. You see how that works? The people at the top, they're waiting in cash. They're going to come in and buy when blood is in the streets, when panic hits the market. When that's going to happen this time, nobody knows. On again to all-time highs. Thanks everybody for watching this update. Bye for now.